Imagine, if you will, the heavy, oppressive silence of a grand, opulent palace hall. It isn't a peaceful quiet. It's the kind of silence that screams, where the air itself feels thick, almost suffocating, laden with unsaid words and terrified glances. In the center of this gilded cage, the sound of a child's heart breaking echoes, not with the soft whimpers of sadness, but with the searing, white-hot heat of humiliation. We are witnessing a rejection so visceral it turns a throne of gold into a battleground between ego and helplessness, sparking a 5-year-old boy's quest to question the very creator of the universe.
It is a moment that changes the course of cosmic history, not through a great war or a clash of demons, but through a single devastating emotional wound inflicted on a child.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. It is brilliant to have you with us again. Now, if you were tuning in for our last deep dive, you'll remember we unpacked the absolute blueprint of humanity with Manu and Shadarupa. We'll look at the macro picture. Today, we're following that lineage down a fascinating and frankly quite heartbreaking path.
Indeed. We are shifting our lens from the general creation of the species to a very specific, very intense individual story. We are looking at the story of Dhruva.
And I have to say, looking at the sources for today, specifically the Vishnu Purana, that this isn't really just a devotional story, is it? I mean, on the surface, sure, it looks like a prayer story. But when you really get into the weeds of it, this feels like a psychological masterclass.
I couldn't agree more. It's fundamentally about trauma. But more importantly, it is about what we call the transmutation of pain. It explores how an individual, even a very young one, can take deep internal humiliation and convert it into the highest form of power.
Which, let's be honest, is something most adults struggle with, let alone a child. So our mission today is to understand how a 5-year-old boy managed to achieve a status that even kings couldn't reach, fueled entirely by an insult. Let's unpack this. We start with the family dynamic, which is, well, it's a bit of a mess.
To put it mildly, we are introduced to King Uttanapada. Now, the king has 2 wives. There's Suniti, the elder queen, and Suruchi, the younger queen.
And right away, the text doesn't shy away from the dysfunction, does it?
Not at all. The king is absolutely infatuated with the younger wife, Suruchi. She holds the power, the influence, and the king's ear. Consequently, Suniti, the elder wife, is sidelined. She is neglected. And by extension, her son, our protagonist Dhruva, is also pushed to the periphery of the king's attention.
I have to ask, though, in these ancient texts, isn't the king usually the upholder of Dharma? The guy who's supposed to be fair and righteous? It seems odd to start with him being so weak.
That's a very sharp observation. Usually, yes. But the Puranas often use the king's faltering character to set up the crisis. Here, King Uttanapada represents a leader compromised by desire. When a leader favors personal attachment over duty, chaos ensues. He's not evil in the comic book sense. He's weak. And in some ways, that's more dangerous.
Right. Weakness creates a vacuum where cruelty can thrive. So let's set the scene for the inciting incident. It's a day like any other in the palace. King Uttanapada is sitting on his throne, and he's got Suruchi's son, Uttama, on his lap. He's cuddling him, showing him affection.
It's a very public display of favoritism.
Yeah, exactly. And here comes Dhruva. He's only 5 years old. He sees his father holding his half-brother, and he does what any 5-year-old would do. He instinctively tries to climb up. He wants to join the huddle. He wants his dad.
And this is where the silence of the palace is shattered. Suruchi, the favorite wife, intervenes physically. She stops Dhruva.
And the words she uses, I mean, reading this, it actually made me wince. It's not just, go away, not now.
Yeah.
It is calculated cruelty.
It is devastating. She tells him, effectively, you are not worthy of this throne or your father's love.
It's devastating.
Unless you are born from my womb.
Unless you are born from my womb, that is the ultimate rejection. She's attacking his very existence. She's saying his birth was a mistake because of who his mother is.
Precisely. She is weaponizing his identity against him. She is telling him that his merit is irrelevant. Only his lineage, specifically being her son, matters.
But, and I think this is where it gets really interesting, the most painful part of this scene isn't actually what Suruchi says. We see the wicked stepmother trope in everything from Cinderella to Hansel and Gretel. We expect her to be mean.
Correct. The tragedy isn't Suruchi's cruelty, it's the king's reaction.
Or lack thereof.
The king watches this happen. He watches his favorite wife verbally eviscerate his 5-year-old son, and he says absolutely nothing. He is too cowardly, too enthralled by Suruchi to stand up for his own child.
That is the moment the heart breaks. It's not just jealousy. It's a father's public abandonment. If the dad had just said, easy now, Suruchi, come up here, Dhruva, the whole story ends there.
Exactly. If the father validates the child, the stepmother's words are just noise. But because the father was complicit through his silence, Dhruva has nowhere to turn in that throne room. The source material describes him running away, humiliated, crying, straight to his mother, Suniti.
Now, this is where I expected the story to go one way, and it went completely somewhere else. You expect the mom to say, oh, they're there, darling, don't listen to them, they're just mean, have a biscuit. You know, the usual soothing noises.
But Suniti is extraordinary here. This is what I love about her character. She offers him what we might call stoic counsel. She doesn't offer false comfort. She doesn't coddle him.
She validates the reality, doesn't she? But it felt almost cold when I first read it.
It can seem cold to the modern ear, but look at what she's actually doing. She looks at her weeping 5-year-old and essentially says, look, what happened is true. Suruchi speaks the truth. We are in a position of weakness. Your father is ashamed of us.
That is profound, actually. She's not gaslighting him. She's not saying everything is fine. She's saying, this is the situation.
She treats him with the respect of an adult. She explains that earthly positions, human validation, even a father's love, these things are temporary. They are fragile. They can be taken away by the whims of people like Suruchi.
And then she gives him the directive. This is the turning point. She tells him, if you want a position that no one can take away, the supreme seat, you have to stop looking at your father.
Stop looking to your father and seek Vishnu. She redirects his need for validation from the mortal parent, who has failed him, to the cosmic parent, the sustainer of the universe. She essentially tells him to stop playing the game of palace politics and go for the ultimate prize.
It's a massive concept for a child. But Dhruva,
Yeah.
he doesn't just nod and go play with his toys. He takes this literally.
This is where we see the emotional resonance of the character. We are talking about a child with a will that defies his age. The Vishnu Purana highlights this specifically. Wisdom has absolutely no correlation to age. A 5-year-old decides to leave the luxury of the palace, the only home he's ever known, to go into the terrifying unknowns of the forest.
The forest of Madhuvana. And let's be clear, this isn't a campground. This is the wild. Tigers, snakes, isolation.
It represents the subconscious, the unknown, the place where social status means nothing.
So off he goes. He leaves the gold, the silk, the toys, and walks into the wild. And on his way, he meets a mentor.
The celestial sage, Narada.
Narada's always popping up in these stories, isn't he? He's like the cosmic plot device.
He is the catalyst for spiritual evolution. But interestingly, Narada tries to stop him first. He plays the devil's advocate. He tells Dhruva, you're a child. This path is hard. Go home, play with your toys. When you're old and retired, then you can search for God.
Which is exactly what any reasonable adult would say to a 5-year-old wandering into the woods.
Precisely. But Dhruva stands his ground. He says, my heart is pierced by my stepmother's words. I cannot go back. Narada sees this unshakable resolve, this Kshatriya spirit, and decides to help him. He imparts the tool Dhruva needs. He gives him the mantra, Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Now, can we pause and break that down? We hear mantra and we think of yoga class or meditation apps. But in this context, what is he actually giving him?
A mantra in this tradition is a sonic vehicle. It's an address. Om is the primordial sound. Namo means I bow or I surrender. Bhagavate refers to the divine. And Vasudevaya is crucial here. It means the one who resides within all things.
So he's not just saying magic words. He's tuning a radio frequency to the source of reality.
Exactly. Narada is giving him the method to access the indwelling Lord.
So Dhruva finds a spot in Madhuvana and begins his penance, his tapasya. Now, I think it's easy for us to gloss over this word penance and just imagine someone sitting quietly with their eyes closed. But the source describes something much more intense, almost physical.
Oh, it's far more than just sitting quietly. The word tapas literally means heat. It's about generating spiritual heat through friction, through intense self-restraint. It's an alchemical process.
The text gives us a breakdown of this, doesn't it? It's not just he meditated. It's a month-by-month escalation.
It is a brutal progression. In the first month, he eats only fruits every 3 days. In the second month, he eats dry leaves and grass every 6 days.
Every 6 days. That's starvation by any modern standard.
By the third month, he's drinking only water every 9 days. By the fourth, he is living on air-only breathing. He is systematically detaching himself from the physical needs of the body to channel 100% of his energy into his focus.
It sounds like biohacking on a cosmic scale. He's hacking his own biology to force a spiritual breakthrough. And then in the 5th month, he stops even that.
Yes. The description is cinematic. He stands on one leg, like a pillar. He controls his breath pranayama to the point where he suspends it completely. And this is where the story shifts from biology to cosmology. The intensity of his focus becomes so singular, so absolute, that when Dhruva holds his breath to meditate, the text says the breath of the entire universe stands still.
That is a staggering image. A little boy in the forest closing his eyes and holding his breath, and the cosmos suffocating in sympathy. But explain that to me. How does a boy holding his breath stop the universe?
It's the concept of the microcosm and the macrocosm. In this philosophy, the individual and the universe are linked. Think of it like a spider web. Dhruva has become the center of the web. He has pulled the thread of his own existence so tight, with such immense tension, that the entire web vibrates and tightens with him.
So because he is connected to the Vasudeva, the indwelling Lord of everything, when he stops, everything stops.
Exactly. The devas, the demigods, start panicking. They feel the pressure. It signifies that his internal state has begun to affect the external reality. He has become heavier than the world itself because of the weight of his resolve.
So let's pause here and really unpack this, because this is where the transmutation of pain comes in.
Yeah.
This is the core analysis we promised at the start.
This is the crux of it. Think back to the insult. Suruchi told him he wasn't worthy.
Right.
Now, consider the alternative. If Suruchi had been kind, if she had said, "Come on up, Dhruva," and the king had hugged him, what would have happened?
Well, he would have been happy. He would have grown up as a prince. Maybe become a king later, lived a nice, comfortable life.
He would have been an ordinary prince. Another name in a long genealogy of kings who lived and died and were largely forgotten. He would have been fragile, in a sense, dependent on that external validation.
Ah, I see. The comfort would have made him average.
Exactly. There is a concept in modern thought called anti-fragility, where a system actually gets stronger when you stress it. Dhruva is the ultimate example of this. The insult was the catalyst. The pain wasn't an obstacle to his greatness. It was the fuel for it.
So the very thing meant to destroy him, the rejection, was actually the propulsion system that launched him.
Precisely. Without that searing humiliation in the throne room, Dhruva never would have sought the forest. He never would have found that level of focus. That is the transmutation, taking the lead weight of trauma and turning it into the gold of spiritual power.
It redefines how we look at our own bad days, doesn't it? The worst thing that happens to you could be the thing that makes you.
If you use it, that's the key. Dhruva didn't wallow, he channeled.
So the universe is choking, the gods are in a panic, and finally Vishnu has to show up. He has no choice.
Dhruva forces his hand. Vishnu appears before the boy.
And the interaction is fascinating. Dhruva opens his eyes, and there's the deity he's been visualizing in his heart, standing right in front of him. And what happens to his desire for the throne?
It evaporates. That's a beautiful irony. He went into the woods to get the kingdom to spite his stepmother. But once he sees the infinite, the desire for a petty earthly kingdom seems ridiculous. He says, "I was looking for pieces of glass and I found a diamond."
He outgrew his own ambition.
He did. But Vishnu, being the preserver, grants him a boon anyway. He doesn't just give Dhruva the throne of his father.
Which would be small potatoes now, really.
Exactly. The father's throne is temporary. Vishnu grants him the status of the Dhruva Nakshatra.
The pole star.
The pole star. Think about the symbolism there. The pole star is the one fixed point in the northern sky.
Everything else revolves around it.
Everything. The constellations, the planets, the seasons, the Great Bear, they all change, they all move, but Dhruva remains constant.
It's the ultimate answer to his stepmother, isn't it? She said he had no place, she tried to push him out of the center, and he ends up becoming the one thing in the universe that cannot be moved.
It is the guide for sailors, for travelers. When you are lost in the dark, you look for Dhruva. He became the definition of stability in a chaotic universe.
That is incredibly powerful. And it brings us to the so what moment. Why does this matter to you listening to this deep dive right now? Because let's be honest, most of us aren't going to run off to the woods, stand on one leg, and hold our breath until the universe stops.
No, and please don't try that at home. But the psychological mechanism is entirely relevant to modern life.
We all face that throne room moment, don't we?
We do every single day. In corporate careers, in relationships, and certainly in the age of social media.
Right.
We are constantly subjected to rejection. We are told we aren't worthy unless we have this job title or this many followers or this appearance.
It's the hunger for validation. We crave those external likes. We want the king or the boss or the internet to pick us up and put us on their lap.
And when they don't, we crumble. We feel that humiliation. We let the Suruchis of the world define our value.
But Dhruva represents the antithesis of that crumbling.
He represents the inner compass. Remember, Suniti told him to stop looking at his father. Stop looking outward for your sense of self.
Look inward or upward.
When you find your internal center, your own personal pole star, the storms of the world cannot shake you. The opinions of others, the cruelty of a colleague or a rejection letter, they cease to matter because your anchor isn't attached to them anymore.
That's a liberating thought. The idea that you can build a resolve so strong that you become the fixed point and the chaos just revolves around you.
It is the ultimate resilience, unshakable resolve residing within everyone. Dhruva proves that you don't need to be an adult or powerful or born of the right mother to find it. You just need the will to turn away from what rejects you and walk toward what sustains you.
Brilliant. Truly brilliant. Now, as we wrap up Dhruva's arc, he achieved that eternal status. He is up there right now, figuratively speaking. But the story of this lineage doesn't end on a high note, does it?
I'm afraid not. History is cyclical. The pendulum swings.
We move from the highest spiritual heights to a very dark turn.
Yes. The lineage continues, and eventually we arrive at a descendant of Dhruva named King Venna.
Vina, just the name sounds ominous.
Vina is the shadow to Dhruva's light. Where Dhruva was pious and disciplined, Vina is arrogant and chaotic. He becomes a tyrant who actively destroys Dharma. He bans rituals, bans charity. The earth itself suffers under his rule.
The sources say the earth actually stopped producing food.
Yes. The earth withheld her bounty because the king was corrupt. It's an ecological collapse triggered by moral decay.
But, and this is the teaser for the next deep dive, from the body of this tyrant comes something or someone incredible.
Yes, the redemption arc. From the churn of Vina's lineage comes Prithu, the benevolent king, the man who literally chases the earth goddess to save humanity.
The man who milks the earth. It's a bizarre and fascinating story. And it's actually why the earth is called Prithvi in Sanskrit. It's named after him.
It's a story of ecological balance and the duty of a king, a perfect follow-up to the internal spiritual journey of Dhruva.
So you are definitely going to want to tune in for that. We are going from the stars back down to the soil.
From the pole star to the earth herself.
If you enjoyed this deep dive into the psychology of the Puranas, please do like, follow, and subscribe. It helps us keep these conversations going and helps you stay on the journey of truth.
There is always more to unpack.
Indeed there is. The story of Prithu awaits. Until next time, find your pole star. See you then.